The crystal glasses clinked at another lavish Thompson family dinner, where I sat in my $20 thrift store dress, watching my sister-in-law Rebecca adjust her Cartier bracelet for the 100th time. My husband, Thomas, squeezed my hand under the table, his silent support worth more than all the designer labels surrounding us. Alice, darling, my mother-in-law Margaret's voice dripped with honey-coated venom. We're collecting donations for the country club's annual charity gala, but don't feel pressured to contribute. We know things are tight on a teacher's salary. I smiled, thinking of the $3 million sitting in my private account, money earned from the educational software company I'd sold last year. That's thoughtful of you, Margaret. Rebecca snorted delicately into her wine glass. At least she admits she can't contribute. Unlike last month when she brought that grocery store cake to little Connor's party. Connor, Rebecca's 8-year-old son, was currently upstairs recovering from his latest heart treatment, the treatment I pay for through an anonymous donation to the hospital, just as I had for the past 3 years. The children loved that cake, I said quietly, remembering Connor's delighted face. Yes, well, children don't have refined tastes, Margaret waved dismissively. Speaking of Connor, the hospital's billing department called again today. These treatments are becoming quite challenging. Rebecca's perfectly made-up face crumpled slightly. The insurance won't cover the next procedure. They're calling it experimental. We've appealed, but... She twisted her expensive bracelet. William and I might have to sell the lake house. Not the lake house, Margaret gasped, as if selling a second home was worse than a sick child. Can't William's firm advance his partnership shares? I took a slow sip of water, knowing exactly why the insurance appeal had failed. I'd seen the documents through my hospital board position, another detail my in-laws didn't know about. The procedure cost $300,000. William, Rebecca's husband, chimed in. The firm's been having a rough year. Thomas spoke up. Maybe we could all help. On your modest salaries, Margaret cut in. Really, Thomas, I know you chose to work at that small practice instead of joining your father's firm, but suggesting you and Alice could help is just... Well, I watched Rebecca brush away tears, her Gucci dress suddenly seeming like the hollow status symbol it was. Her son needed life-saving surgery, and she was more worried about losing a vacation home. There might be another way, I said carefully. The Hamilton Children's Fund often supports cases like Connor's. The waiting list is years long, William scoffed. And they only help families who can't afford treatment. Which isn't us, Margaret added quickly. We're Thompsons. We don't take charity. No, they just judge those they thought needed it. I thought of the paperwork already on my desk, ready to be processed through the foundation I'd secretly established after selling my company. The Hamilton Children's Fund, named after my grandmother, who'd raised me with the values these people couldn't understand. Connor's doctor called me today. Rebecca's voice cracked. If we can't schedule the surgery within 2 weeks. I watched my sister-in-law break down, her expensive mascara creating black rivers down her cheeks. Around her, the family erupted in a chorus of useless suggestions. Could we mortgage the ski chalet? What about your jewelry collection? Perhaps a fundraising gala. Thomas caught my eye. He alone knew the truth about my finances, about the foundation, about the anonymous donations that had kept Connor in treatment this long. His slight nod gave me the permission I needed. The Hamilton Fund will cover Connor's surgery, I said quietly. The table fell silent. And how would you know that? Margaret's voice could have frozen fire. I pulled out my phone, opened my email, and slid it across the table. Because I just approved the emergency application. Rebecca grabbed the phone, her hands shaking. This is impossible. The foundation board only meets quarterly. The next meeting isn't for 2 months. Unless you're the founder and chairperson, I said, watching comprehension dawn across their faces. Then you can approve emergency cases immediately. William's face flushed red. You. But you shop at thrift stores. Yes, I agreed. Because I believe money should be spent on things that matter. Like children's medical care, or education grants, or anonymous donations to help families too proud to admit they're drowning in medical debt. Rebecca's mascara-stained face went pale. The anonymous donor, the one who's been helping with Connor's bills, that was you. All this time, Margaret's voice shook. You let us think. I let you think what you wanted to think. I corrected. You chose to see my second-hand clothes instead of my values. You chose to mock my simple apartment instead of asking why I live below my means. You chose appearances over substance. The silence around the table was deafening. Connor's surgery is scheduled for next Tuesday. I continued, pulling out a folder I'd brought just in case. The Hamilton Fund will cover all costs, including post-operative care and physical therapy. I've already spoken with Dr. Richards. Rebecca clutched the papers, her designer bracelet clinking against the table. Why? Why help us when we've been so cruel? I supplied. Because Connor deserves a chance at life, regardless of this family's behavior. And because sometimes the best lesson in humility is a quiet act of kindness. Margaret began, but I held up my hand. I don't want apologies offered out of embarrassment or gratitude. If you want to apologize, do it by changing how you treat others. All others, not just me, now that you know I can write seven-figure checks. Thomas stood, offering me his hand. I think we should head home. You have that board meeting tomorrow, darling. As we walked to the door, I turned back to the shell-shocked family. Connor's a wonderful boy who deserves every chance at life. That's what matters. Not lake houses or charity galas or designer labels. Just a little boy who needs help. The week following my revelation was filled with a deafening parade of text messages, calls, and elaborate flower arrangements sent to both my tiny apartment and my foundation office. Each delivery came with increasingly desperate notes of apology from various Thompson family members. I donated all the flowers to Connor's hospital ward. On the morning of Connor's surgery, I sat in the waiting room, purposely choosing a plastic chair away from the cluster of Thompson family members in their designer outfits. They kept throwing uncertain glances my way, clearly unsure how to act around the family's poor relation who had turned out to be their financial savior. Rebecca approached tentatively, her usually polished appearance showing signs of stress. Alice, may I sit? I gestured to the empty chair beside me. She sat, awkwardly smoothing her silk pants. I returned the Cartier bracelet, she said quietly, and the summer collection I just bought. That's not why I helped Connor, I replied, keeping my eyes on the surgery board where my nephew's procedure was listed as in progress. I know, she twisted her now bare wrists. But after you left that night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about all the times I bought expensive things while you were secretly paying for my son's treatments. The shame, it's overwhelming. A nurse walked past, and Rebecca instinctively drew her designer bag closer. Old habits die hard. I noticed it was her usual Hermes, but then realized it was a well-worn one, not her typical new seasonal purchase. Did you know, I said, watching the surgery timer tick by, that the cost of your last 3 handbags could have funded a year of medical care for a child in need? She flinched. I never thought about it that way. That's the problem, isn't it? None of you ever thought about it. Money was for showing off, not for making a difference. William appeared, carrying 3 coffee cups from the hospital cafeteria, not the expensive coffee shop across the street. He handed us each a cup without comment, then sat heavily on my other side. I've been reviewing our household expenses, he said after a moment. The country club membership, the multiple vacation properties, the private jet shares. It's obscene, isn't it? Especially when my own son needed. His voice broke. I saw the weight of realization crushing him, how their priorities had been so catastrophically wrong. The Hamilton Fund, Rebecca spoke hesitantly, does it? Are there other children who need help like Connor? Hundreds, I replied. Every day, families choose between medical care and basic necessities. Some sell their homes, drain their retirement funds, work multiple jobs, all while caring for a sick child. Margaret approached, looking oddly diminished without her usual armor of jewelry and hauteur. The charity galas, she said, sinking into a chair opposite us. All those events we held, we raised money for art installations and symphony orchestras while children needed medical care. It's never too late to change your priorities, I offered. Will you? Rebecca hesitated. Would you teach us how to actually make a difference instead of just pretending to care? Before I could answer, Dr. Richards emerged from the surgery wing. We all stood, hearts pounding. The surgery was successful, he announced with a smile. Connor's heart is responding well to the procedure. The collective relief was palpable. Rebecca burst into tears, while William gripped my hand so tightly it hurt. Thank you, Dr. Richards, I said. When can we see him? He'll be in recovery for a few hours. But there's something else you should know. He looked around at the family. Connor's case has helped us validate this new procedure. Because of him, we can now help other children with similar conditions. The Hamilton Fund's support isn't just saving Connor, it's creating a pathway for treating many more children. I watched this sink in with the Thompsons. The idea that their son's treatment could help others seemed to affect them deeply. Alice, Margaret stepped forward. The foundation, would you consider letting us help? Not with money, she added quickly, seeing my expression, but with time, effort, learning. The foundation always needs volunteers, I said carefully. People willing to sit with worried parents, help coordinate care, assist with paperwork. It's not glamorous work. We want to learn, Rebecca said firmly. Please, show us how to be more like you and less like what we were. Later that evening, as Connor rested in his private room surrounded by simple flowers from a hospital gift shop, Rebecca had canceled the exotic flower order she'd initially placed. I watched my in-laws gather around their phones, canceling standing appointments for manicures and golf games, replacing them with volunteer orientation schedules. Thomas found me in the hallway, wrapping his arms around me from behind. You've started quite a revolution in the Thompson family. They're trying, I acknowledged. Let's see if it lasts beyond the initial shock and gratitude. It will, he said confidently. You know why? Because for the first time, they see the actual value of money, not as something to show off, but as a tool to help others. That's a lesson that sticks. A week later, I arrived at the foundation office to find Rebecca in the volunteer room, wearing simple clothes and helping a crying mother fill out assistance forms. Her expensive highlights were growing out, her nails were unpainted, and she looked more genuine than I'd ever seen her. The mother's son has the same condition Connor had, she told me during break. I've been telling her about our experience, helping her understand the treatment process. It feels good to actually help instead of just throwing money at things. William had started a pro bono program at his law firm to help families navigate medical insurance appeals. Margaret was reorganizing her social calendar around hospital volunteer shifts instead of social events. And Connor, recovering steadily, had asked for his birthday party to be held in the children's ward so his new friends from the hospital could join him. You know, Rebecca said, watching another family enter the foundation office with worried faces, I used to think being rich meant having the most expensive things. Now I realize true wealth is being able to help others. I smiled, remembering my grandmother's words that had inspired the Hamilton Fund. Money is like water. It's only useful when it flows to nurture growth, not when it sits stagnant in fancy pools. The Thompson family was finally learning to let their wealth flow in the right direction. 6 months after Connor's surgery, the transformation in the Thompson family was remarkable. The lake house had been converted into a recovery retreat for families with children undergoing long-term medical treatment. Margaret's beloved country club membership card had been replaced by a hospital volunteer badge that she wore with genuine pride. At today's foundation board meeting, I watched Rebecca confidently present a new initiative she'd developed, a program to help families navigate the complex maze of medical insurance and hospital bureaucracy. She'd become our most dedicated volunteer, working tirelessly to support other parents facing the same fears she had once experienced. The program has already helped 30 families receive approval for previously denied treatments, Rebecca explained, her simple button-down shirt and practical flats a far cry from her former designer wardrobe. We're expanding to 3 more hospitals next month. William, sitting among the board members, beamed with pride at his wife. He had restructured his law firm's priorities, dedicating 40% of its resources to pro bono medical advocacy cases. The same connections he once used to get premium golf tee times now helped expedite critical medical appeals. "And how is our star patient?" Dr. Richards asked after the presentation. Rebecca's face lit up. "Connor's starting a peer support group for kids with heart conditions. He says if he can help just one child feel less scared, it's worth missing his video game time." The same boy who once had a playroom bigger than my apartment now spent his weekends reading to children in the hospital ward. After the meeting, Margaret approached my office, clutching a familiar-looking leather portfolio. "I found this while cleaning out our storage unit," she said, placing it on my desk. "All my old charity gala plans. Thousands of dollars spent on ice sculptures and champagne fountains." She shook her head. "Do you know what that money could have done for the families here? The past is past, Margaret, I replied gently. What matters is what we do now. That's why I'm here. She straightened. I've dissolved the country club charity committee. Instead, we're establishing a medical assistance fund. Many of our members, well, let's just say the Thompsons weren't the only family more focused on appearances than actual charity. I thought about the ripple effects of Connor's surgery, how one family's transformation had inspired others to reconsider their priorities. The foundation's donation pool had tripled, not from brand galas, but from families redirecting their luxury budgets to meaningful causes. Alice, Margaret's voice wavered. I know we can never fully apologize for how we treated you, but seeing you work here, watching you change lives without wanting any recognition, it's taught us what real class looks like. At that moment, Thomas arrived with Connor, who rushed to give me a hug. Aunt Alice, I gave my birthday money to the foundation. Mom helped me calculate that it can pay for 10 new pulse oximeters for the pediatric ward. That's wonderful, Connor, I said, hugging him back, remembering the boy who once threw a tantrum over not getting the latest gaming console. And guess what? He continued excitedly. Dad sold his sports car. He says helping kids is better than any fancy car. Rebecca, who'd joined us, wrapped an arm around her son. We're learning from the best, she said with a smile. Though I doubt we'll ever match your level of quiet generosity. It's not about matching anyone, I replied. It's about doing what we can, where we are, with what we have. As I watched the transformed Thompson family, Margaret discussing volunteer schedules, William reviewing pro bono cases, Rebecca organizing parent support meetings, and Connor planning his next reading session with young patients, I thought about how money could either build walls or bridges. The Thompsons had finally torn down their walls of privilege and built bridges of compassion instead. Their designer labels were gone, replaced by something far more valuable, genuine empathy and purpose. You know, Thomas whispered in my ear, for a poor relation, you've certainly enriched this family in ways money never could. I squeezed his hand, watching Connor show his grandmother his new volunteer badge with the same pride she once showed off her tennis club membership card. Some fortunes are measured not in dollars, but in the lives they touch and the changes they inspire. And by that measure, the Thompson family had finally become truly wealthy.